what you see here is a World Cup meme. And I'm not talking about Cape Verde, which has magically stopped being one now, because of course now with another draw and even scoring goals. I've even heard on TV that right after that match when Spain drew against Cape Verde, ridiculous, awful, Cape Verde doesn't even exist. But anyway, whatever. Well, now it turns out they're a team with players who play in Europe, who are good, who defend well, and who also attack well. Well, just like every story in football, if you notice, well, that's how it is. They weren't that bad the other day against Spain, even though Spain should have definitely won. And they're not as good now as people are saying. Some are even saying that if they advance as runners-up and so on, maybe they'll surprise Argentina. But no, not really. But still, they do have a chance not to go through in second place. It's just that the third match in this group is Spain versus Uruguay. And now we'll talk a bit about that and some things I left out from the Spain match. Of course, about Cucurella, who with Dumfries, honestly, based on what he's showing in this World Cup, we're going to have two very interesting and exciting fullbacks for the fans at the Bernabeu. But first, because it's one of the funniest moments. Well, funny. It has its drama. Because it's the second goal by Uruguay, the first or the second. I can't remember now. Of course, there's a Uruguayan soccer player here helping one of the Cape Verde players who had a cramp in his calf. And he's doing it and sees that his team is moving forward and also has a chance they have a dangerous chance in Cape Verde's box. And the guy just ignores him and says, well, you're on your own. It was incredible. And the video is even more amazing, right? And speaking of, I'll continue with this in a moment, but speaking of World Cup memes, I really love this one. Well, Belgium couldn't get past a draw against Iran. And here we have the Strait of Hormuz, which was Iran's penalty area. But the photo and the play itself, if you saw it live, it's incredible because it's a play that should have ended in a goal. Absolutely, 9.5 times out of 10. And yet the great performance here, especially by Iran's goalkeeper, prevented Belgium from winning. Careful, because Courtois also had some really outstanding saves. And as for Belgium, honestly, given the group they've had and with the other match level right now, for now, while I'm recording this, I don't know how it will end. New Zealand and Egypt, it's a joke group. So Belgium still has the chance to advance as group leader if they beat New Zealand, right? And now let's go over Spain's group, by the way, where anything can happen. It's the only group so far, except maybe Belgium's. I think it's going the same way, depending on this match that still has to finish, where indeed anything can happen. The first could finish third, and the second could finish fourth. It's crazy. But anyway, like I said, Uruguay drawing with Cape Verde kind of puts things in perspective, right? I mean, there's a lot of joking and making fun of some teams in the World Cup. But what's clear is that Curaçao is another team that was seen as an underdog, just like Cape Verde. But tell me if I'm wrong and let me know down there in the comment section if you don't mind me repeating myself. If they're on the same level, I don't think so. Curaçao knocked out Cameroon in the African qualifiers. And what's happening in Africa is starting to get really serious. Look at the match Ivory Coast played against Germany. Just look at that. What other teams from the African continent have done, like Congo? I couldn't remember. The Democratic Republic of the Congo drawing with Portugal. And, well, it's not really something to laugh about, is it? African football has evolved quite a lot in recent years. But what is clear is that Uruguay, I think at the beginning of the match, underestimated, just like Spain did, Cape Verde, right? Look at the free kick the guy takes from way out. He takes a run up like Roberto Carlos, and they only set up a two-man wall and run. And when he takes the free kick, which results in Cape Verde's first goal, the wall opens up. This is enough to drive the Uruguayans crazy. I don't know how that match against Spain will turn out because they're going to give it their all. And the Uruguayans, when they find themselves there between a rock and a hard place, when the matches are do or die, I hope they don't get too physical, but they're tough. They're really tough. It could be a different story for Bielsa, who's had some bad luck in World Cups, but I won't say anything yet. The thing is, the group, Spain's group, Group H, is like this. And it could match up with Mexico depending on who finishes third. If Cape Verde beats Arabia and Uruguay beats Spain, La Roja drops to third place, and it would be Spain versus Mexico, which I don't want. I already made that video in a previous one, that video with Talina, with my wife, on Daystar Espanol, on the show Todo Gol. And honestly, I really don't want that to happen for anything in the world, because it would be a drama here at home. If Cape Verde, and I don't think it will happen, if Cape Verde beats Arabia and Uruguay ties with Spain, Uruguay could qualify third. Mexico versus Uruguay would be in the round of 16. If Cape Verde ties and Spain and Uruguay tie, Cape Verde could advance in third place. A Mexican source says none of Mexico's possible opponents seem favorable. And it's true. I mean, neither Uruguay nor Spain are good opponents for Mexico. And what about Cape Verde, which could have been an easy match? It was before the World Cup started, but not anymore, because two of the important teams, one was more of a favorite than the other, of course, Spain. Regarding Uruguay, you can already say that these guys are not easy to beat, right? Either because they stand up to you, like in this match against Uruguay, or because they sit back and they do it well. And there's no way to break the deadlock, like the problem Spain had the other day. Speaking of Spain, there were some changes I didn't mention in the previous video in the reaction to the match, and that was one of them. There were 4 changes, which means almost 40% of the team was changed compared to the first match. I understood every single one of them. One of them was Pedro Porro for Marcos Llorente. I think Marcos Llorente is more physical, he covers more ground, and he had a better season as a right back than Pedro Porro. But the thing is, Pedro Porro has something that Marcos Llorente doesn't have, and that's depth with good crosses. I mean, I think Pedro Porro has a better touch, and he's more dangerous as a right back than Marcos Llorente. And I think that with Lamine Yamal on that side, he connects better than Marcos Llorente does with Lamine, who didn't play the other day. But I don't know. I think there's a better fit there. Let me know in the comments what you think. Has Pedro Porro ever been linked to a Real Madrid transfer? Although I think that with Dumfries and with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I have this idea, I told you in a previous video, I think Dumfries is going to be Mourinho's starter. And maybe Alexander-Arnold will play as a midfielder in many matches, knowing good old Mau. Well, I think this was good for Spain. The same goes for Olmo, who I didn't mention in the previous video. For me, he's key. It's not that he's a better player than Fabian. It's just that in certain contexts, and with Pedri dropping deeper to build up play with Rodri, I think Olmo a bit further forward in that midfield triangle does a lot more damage. And Olmo is a player who, with Barca and with Spain, with Barca in national competitions and even in international ones, is only playing on a temporary basis. The government helped, as we know from the precautionary measure, but let's set that aside since he's now with the national team. He has always performed in championships with the national team. And for me, and we saw it in the Euro Cup, when Pedri got injured playing against Germany, Olmo was the player who gave Spain that extra quality. Spain was much more dangerous in attack with Olmo than with Pedri. And Pedri, even if he dropped back to the base of the play, I think he's better suited there in that role within De La Fuente's national team. I think Pedri isn't quite at his best. He makes some decisions. Sometimes he looks a bit slow, but even though he's not doing badly, I think he can give a lot more. There are people telling me, what? Do you still think Rodri should play for Madrid? Well, let me tell you something. Rodri, in the second match, I mean the match against Arabia, did much better than in the match against Cape Verde. It's also because the team played much better than they did against Cape Verde. As I said in the previous video, it's about your mindset going into the match. In the first one, they thought they could win just by showing up in the jersey, and that's it. And in this second one, they came out with the mentality of, no, gentlemen, here we have to work a little and we have to move. Also, in that three-quarters area, not just waiting for the ball to come to us, and that always benefits the pivot when he sees more movement around him, I think, right? I know that many of you can't stand Rodri for, well, the reasons we all know, but for me, I mean, compared to Rodri before the injury, if you compare him to the match against Cape Verde, I'd say, damn, he seems slow and all that. Yesterday against Saudi Arabia, I didn't see him like that. I saw him much better. And if we add that to this end of the season with Manchester City, what can I say? I don't see that half-injured, retired player that some people are talking about. Madrid is not going to sign him. If they go for a playmaker, for a holding midfielder, I think it will be someone else. And I would totally understand that. And if they put both of them in front of me, maybe I'd choose the Moroccan or you because they're much younger and much more worthwhile over time. But watch out because Mourinho signs experienced players. And it's true that Rodri was one of Riquelme's men, Florentino's rival in the elections. But there's still a lot of summer left. Maybe things will change. And they're even discussing Tchouaméni possibly leaving. I really wouldn't want that. Let me know in the comments what you think about this topic. And the one I really like is Cucurella, and more, I mean, Cucurella. It's just that Cucurella and Dumfries are going to be a show on the right and left wings, because even though we're not talking about Cafu or Roberto Carlos, I mean, I think it's the closest thing. I mean, maybe not. Cucurella isn't, Marcelo, Dumfries isn't the best, Carvajal, they're not. But I think they're both 8.5 out of 10 players, 8.5. Then sometimes you can have a player who in attack, a fullback, who in attack is a 10 or a 9.5, and then in defense falls short, like Marcelo was, like Roberto Carlos himself was. Even though when they went in for a tackle, they were fantastic, but well, many times they got lost when they went forward to attack. And typical Brazilian fullbacks who were a bit weak there in defense. But what is it? Come on, Cucurella and Dumfries are 8.5 in both aspects, right? They did an interview with Cucurella's wife on El Chiringuito. And if we like Cucurella, we're going to like his wife even more, because she's a Madridista from birth. Because the other day she was in that tweet, well, that post where she appeared wearing a Real Madrid jersey when she was little, which confused a lot of people, wondering if it was Cucurella, but it definitely wasn't. And check out this interview they did with her on El Chiringo, because it's pretty funny.
Well, Claudia, how are you? The other day we saw Cucu very happy at the press conference. He stepped up to tell us a bit about everything, how you all experienced this. Too many emotions at once, right?
It all happened so fast, so since we were focused on the World Cup and everything, it's like we probably haven't even processed it yet. But anyway, I'm really happy for him. He's happy, and so am I.
So how did you get the news? Did he call you? Did he say, hey, this happened? Is it done already?
His agents called both of us on a video call, and they told us about this, that the clubs already had an agreement and everything. And honestly, it was a bit of a surprise for all of us, but it was good.
Very happy, I imagine?
Very happy. I'm very happy. Well, and he is too, so that's good.
The photo you posted in the Madrid jersey caused some confusion. People weren't sure if it was you or Cucurella.
I know, it's not me, it's me. But I mean, I'm a Madrid fan. I've always said it. Like, I've never hidden it. Like, I've always been a Madrid fan. At home, they made me a Madrid fan. When I started with Mark, everything eventually looked different. And I'll always support whichever team Mark is on. But, well, look, actually, my two paths have come together. And that's it. And I was happy to share it. But that's all. Well,
thank you for speaking with us. It's a pleasure.
Well, anyway, she's really nice, this girl, Cucurella's wife. And hey, look, she's been a Madrid fan her whole life. She's going to make Cucu even more of a Madrid fan. And anyway, Cucu started out at Espanyol. He must have some affection for Madrid, especially if he chooses Real Madrid. It's because despite having been in the Barca setup, he didn't really have anything against Madrid. Well, guys, hope everything goes well for you. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel. Hype up the video. Please comment and share. Egypt has scored the second goal. There's still time, 15 minutes left. And it's going to make things really tough for Belgium, because this result is definitely complicated for Belgium. And then there's Egypt, because Egypt will then face Iran. I think they'll win, and most likely Belgium will end up second. And regarding those early predictions about possible matchups in the brackets from the round of 32 onwards, Belgium will probably end up on a path they weren't supposed to take. And also a bit of everything, but well, there's still a lot of World Cup left. Remember, there's a website. There's the BBC one, which keeps track of the matchups at this moment. It's already changed since the last video. Now, Mexico would play Cape Verde, right? Mexico is first in its group against the third place from Spain's group. As things stand, it's true that only one match has been played in both groups, right? An England versus Portugal in the round of 32, and there's a Brazil versus Japan. Watch out, a Brazil versus Japan. And, well, I mean, some really tough matchups here, like Morocco versus Netherlands. But this is just for now. I think this is definitely going to change. All right, guys, that's it. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye. Bye.